Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. We are in our Gazelle M mic version and we're going to fire some HOT3 missiles at some targets. Show you how we get into a hover, how we lock onto the target and fire the missile. So, me and Charlotte are going to go and do that. Before we do anything, let's bring up the arming screen. Right, now before we look at the missiles, we've actually got some other things to look at. On pylon 6, we've got the possibility of an IR deflector. Do you want to go through that, Star, quickly?
The IR reflectors, it basically just adds an additional doodad to your exhaust, which will deflect the exhaust upwards into your rotor segment. So it will just make your IR signature a little bit more diffuse. If you look at my aircraft, you can currently see it.
Roger, yeah, I see it. Oh, so it's a big thing, bucket at the back that points it upwards. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Pylon number 5, we've got a sand filter.
Yeah, the thing is pretty straightforward, just what it says. You can also see that currently at the air intake underneath my road.
Do you actually need it? Now we're in a desert at the moment. Is it actually modelled?
I'm frankly not entirely sure. I've never had my engine die due to sand, I think.
Okay, Roger. Maybe something in the future. Right, and pylons 1, 2, 3 and 4, because we're in the mic version, we're going to be getting wire-guided HOT missiles. Do you want to explain about them quickly?
Request rearming.
Yeah, so the HOT3s, they are tandem warhead heat missiles, ATGMs, with a range of about 4.3 kilometers. They are wire-guided, as I mentioned, so if you snip the wire or lose line of sight or something, they will just go off track.
Roger, cool. Okay, sorry, did you say the range is?
4.3 kilometers. If you reach the end of that range and they have not impacted anything, they will just explode in midair.
That's fine, right. Now at this point, it's prudent to point out we can switch between the driver and the commander's position. Press 1 for driver, 2 for commander, or I like to call it the gunner, but it's a commander, and we're going to be using that to fire the missile. And as well as that, we can have multiplayer people in here, so I can basically fly this here, and we can have a second, if I wanted, I could have Stahl in the second seat here, and he could be doing the commanding. I'm going to try and show that. If I go to select role, you see I'm in this pilot at the moment here, and I can click on pilot 2 there, and that will put Stahl in my helicopter, but we don't want to do that, so...
Actually, vice versa, you're gonna come into my helicopter if you click on it as well. Okay,
Roger. You know what I mean. Okay, so that's that. Before we go any further, we're going to look at the controls that we're going to use, because there's going to be a few, and I'm going to struggle to show you them on the fly. So, to fire the missile launch button, we're going to use there. To put ourselves in an auto hover, which we need to do to fire the missile, we're going to have the auto hover toggle there. To slave our helicopter to basically point at the selected target, we're going to have auto slave toggle there. We need all of these things to fire. To slew the camera up, down, left and right, we've got slew down, up, left and right. To change the station, change the weapon station, we've got cycle station. Saves clicking on the knob, which is difficult to do. To fire the laser, we've got laser button there. What do these ones do? To zoom the camera, we've got VCB zoom in, VCB zoom out. Are we going to go through the IR mode as well, or is that for another missile?
Yeah, sure we can. It's pretty simple anyway.
And to toggle between normal and IR view, we've got that, as well as all your normal control buttons and stuff like that. So there's quite a lot to remember, but once you're used to the process, it's going to be fine. I'm new to this, so just bear with me. It will take a little while to get me set up and going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off, put ourselves in an auto hover, and then look for targets. So we're going to show putting it into an auto hover because it can be a little awkward. So this switch here, I'm going to turn down to DOP, the nadir, which basically gives us the ability to find an auto hover with these crosshairs here. We've got our left to right movement in that line there, our forward and backwards movement in that line there. If we get them centered like they are now, we are not moving, which means that we're in a position to hover. So we're going to take off. I'm going to head to the edge of the airport. Stand by, let me just put my, so you can see my controls there on the bottom left. Right, you can follow me, Star. Oh, can you just check I've got my missiles on? Yes, I have. Right. So, we're going to get some altitude, because we want to be able to look quite far and fire this missile as far as we can.
Which, in all fairness, isn't all that far.
Isn't all that far. Okay, now the next thing I want to do, I'm going to spin around because I want to shoot one of these airplanes behind me. The next thing I want to do, woo-wee, there we go, is I want to put myself in an artificial hover. So before I can press the auto hover button, I need to get myself in a hover, basically. So I want to get my sync rate. I'm going to have to pause it here, Star. I want to get my vertical velocity basically at 0 there, which can be a little taxing. It's something we're going to have to balance by using the collective. And I want to get this crosshair, this line here, and this line here in the center. That will put me in a pilot-based hover, basically. So as this line here is to the right, it means I want to roll to the right to collect that line. And as this line is down slightly, that means I want to head backwards and to chase that line. So I want to chase these lines until they're in the center and chase that vertical velocity at 0. When I'm close enough there, I'll click the hover button, and just to confirm it's put it into hover, I'll get a little sign come up there. Now it can be awkward, especially for a new pilot like me, so just give me a chance to settle down, and it's going to roll right. This is going to be a little bit ugly, I'm afraid. Okay, we're going to try. That's not too bad. Won't let me. I tried auto hovering there, but it didn't let me, so I'm going to try adding a bit of power. It will only let you go into auto hover when you've got into a pilot-based hover, basically. And there we go. We got close enough, at which we got within the threshold, at which we could turn our auto hover on. Right.
The official limits basically are plus minus 18 kph in any direction, not more than 60 meters per minute sink or climb, and not more than 30 degrees pitch or...
Roger. Right, so we're good to start firing, so... Get the recording. Yes, we are. Right, so the next thing... I've done the pilot's work now, I've got into position, I've got into the hover. Next we're going to jump over to the commander seat by pressing 2, and here we go. So let me start going through this setup. You can correct me if I get it wrong at any point. I'm going to turn the screen on with that there. I'm going to go to this here, which is the VCB power selector, and turn it on to M. I'm going to go to this here, which is the VCB IR power selector, and turn it to M on. I head down here. I want this selector, which is the VCB mode selector. So this is basically a display of a camera, which is on our aircraft. Currently the camera is pointing backwards, that's its natural position. So the first thing we're going to do is point it forwards. We turn it to ASS. Okay. So you can see it will slew until it's forward, okay? And it's now locked in a forwards position. Now, to give us control of this, we're going to move it to the next left one. I can't actually read that. PI something.
PIL for pilots.
PIL, roger. And this allows us to move the camera around with our slew controls that we looked at earlier. So we can go down, right, left and up. So we're going to go from final set. Is that you darting about down there, Stahl? What are you up to?
I just had to take off again because it kicked me off the server again when you unpaused.
It doesn't like me pausing, obviously. Right, okay, fair enough. Right, I can zoom in, as we talked about earlier. We've got those commands, zoom all the way in, and it's really good optics, a really lovely big camera on this, okay? So I'm going to, as I slew it round, you can see that we've got changing numbers. So let's discuss what they are. This here, this lower number, is the absolute heading that the camera is firing at, is aiming at. So it's aiming at heading 306. The number above it is the deviation heading from our helicopter heading. So it's heading left, which is G, 5 degrees to our left. If we moved it right, it's 0 deflection. It's heading exactly the same direction as our plane. And if we move right, it's D, or right, 005 degrees to the right. Okay, so that's that. So the next thing we're going to do is actually find something to shoot.
There's one thing to note, by the way. There's a setting in the special settings of the Gazelle, which says something like slew second stick. If you take that off, you can actually use your flight stick to slew as well. Roger.
Okay. I'm quite happy with these binary slews, to be honest. Now you notice it's quite kind of jaggedy, quite hard to get a close aim, what am I trying to say? A resolution to get an accurate shot. So all you have to do is zoom in with the zoom in a few times, and then you get much more detail of being able to move. Right, so I've hooked up that 707, what the goddamn hell it is. Someone let me know, I don't know. And I'm aiming at it. I can see it's 3 degrees to my left. It's absolute 306. Now I want to fire my laser at it. I'm going to unrelease these 2 red catches. And I'm going to press our laser button that we talked about earlier. So we're going to just press it once. And you can see we get a number. That's the distance to us, from us to the target in meters, 4039. So it's just within our 4.2 kilometer range. So it's within range. So we're good to shoot. The next thing is we want to go to our master arm, and I'm just looking at here, below our radio compass here, turn it on. The next thing we want to do is this here. Now the name of this I always forget. It's the arrête marshy one. It's like the firing mode. What do you call it? I'm not quite sure what to call it. But basically,
it's arming mode, basically.
Arming mode. So arrête is off, jour is on, but day mode, marshy is on night mode. We're in day, so we're going to go to jour. The next thing we're going to do is choose our pylon selector. We've got 4 pylons, 1, 2, 3, 4 over there somewhere, and we're going to we can either turn the knob, and we want to start with 1, by the way. We can either go 1 like that, or we can change it with our button that we set earlier in the commands, as you remember. Okay. One thing to point out is don't change the pylon when there's a missile in the air, because it will sever contact with a missile and it will go haywire. So wait until the missile is hit before you select the next weapon. Right, Stahl. Oh, we don't actually lock onto the target. Should we quickly try IR mode?
Yeah, sure. That's quite easy. That's one push of a button if you have the IR camera on already. So if you see your control stick for the camera, just at the bottom right of that, there's a black button. You hit that.
Roger. Okay, I've got it bound. Like we said, we showed it in the controls menu earlier on. You can just do that. So if we're in night mode, presumably IR is what you want to use. Question?
Yeah, generally when you're struggling to see something, you can use it during the day as well. There's also 2 interesting settings you can change underneath your fire button on that stick.
Yes.
There's 2 buttons. The first one will just change your symbology from white to black and vice versa.
Yeah.
And the bottom one will change to black hot rather than white hot.
Roger. Understood. Right, I'm ready to fire now, aren't I, Shah?
Should be.
So I'm going to press the fire missile button, and off she goes. Sweet, it doesn't work. What have we done wrong?
You open your covers.
Covers are open.
Your pylon selector is not on a 0.
It is on 1. Master arm is up. Oh, I didn't do slave. Ah ha ha. Right, so I tried to fire the missile there, and it didn't fire. And I was like, okay, why didn't it fire? The reason is that we haven't slaved the helicopter's direction to the target. I have to basically turn my helicopter so it's facing the target for the missile to work. So that was a bit stupid of me. So basically this number at the top, you want to be seeing 0. Now I'm not going to turn it manually as a pilot. I'm going to press the auto slave that we looked at earlier. I'm going to press it now. And our helicopter is turning, and you can see we're getting down to 0 there. And now we've got our launch authority, which is that little rectangle there. You need that to be able to fire. So that's a common thing. Easy to forget. So now we can fire. Now we've got our symbology. So I'm now going to press the weapon fire. Off he toots. Follow the missile. Boom!
Stahl rifle.
Yeah, we can't actually hit them because they're not actually modelled, those planes. They're just empty things. Right, Stahl. I'm going to select my second pylon now. Boom. And I am going to slew onto a new target because I can.
There's one thing to note, by the way. If you want to look at some point on the ground for a long time and you don't want to slew off it accidentally, for example, I can just set your mode selector back to ASS. That's going to lock the camera in place. You can't slew anymore.
Hey, firm, understood. Right, you can see I've turned here. I've moved the camera, and I don't have to slay the helicopter's direction to that camera because it's within a small amount of deflection. I said that right,
plus
didn't I?
minus 3 degrees in either direction.
So we're within the plus or minus 3 degrees. You can see with 0, so we can still fire without moving the helicopter. That's what I'm trying to say. Right, we're going to fire that now. Off he toots.
One thing to note about the range of the Gazelle, it's a little bit problematic because at 4.3 kilometers, a lot of targets will be able to shoot back at you with ETGMs, main tank guns, all that kind of stuff. So it is pretty dangerous to use against anything that can reasonably fight back.
Roger, okay. Okay, fine. Have you got anything else to add to the mic version on the HOT3 Star?
Nope. from the top of my head, no.
Cool, right, I hope that helps, and we'll see you later.